So being real, therapy, coaching, any type of personal growth work is always an investment. Depending on where you live and who you work with, you're looking at $135 to $250 a session. Twice that if you live in Manhattan, right? And yes, that can feel like a lot of money, but think about this. How much did you spend on your last vacation? Or on the couch that is in your living room, the shoes on your feet, the ones that you had to have, right? Your last birthday. I mean, one of the things that always strikes me is how much people are willing to pay for all kinds of things. Their ski pass, their skin tweakments, right? We find the money to do the things that we want to do. But most of the things that we spend money on do not have long-term, lifelong value. And let me just tell you a quick personal story, if I may. When I was first married, my husband and I went through a really serious rough patch in our relationship. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out. We were caught in one of those super toxic relationship cycles. Every little thing either of us said or did turned into World War III, right? It was like always something simmering under the surface. I think we were both trying. We legitimately did not know how to fix our relationship. And so whatever we tried just made things worse. And I was actually in individual therapy at the time. I was working on some of my own stuff. And my therapist said something really powerful because, I was young, probably 23. I got married super young. And my therapist was like, Lisa, if you don't do something about your relationship and this keeps going, you're going to wind up being a bitter old woman. That's what she said. And that kind of broke through my fog, right? Because I had been telling myself stories about how much marriage counseling cost and we couldn't afford it. I mean, I was working as a waitress at the time at a bar. I mean, and money was tight. My husband wasn't working at all. But I had found a therapist who graciously let me do therapy with her on a sliding scale basis. And that's why at my practice, Growing Self-Counseling and Coaching, we always have space for at least some sliding scale clients because that was really important for me when I was 23. And so we make it work for people. This couples counseling did not just help us improve our relationship at the moment, although it did. It changed the trajectory of our lives. So as a 23-year-old, very young person, door number one was if you do stay married, which was feeling kind of iffy, you're going to be a bitter old woman. Door number two is getting a divorce and doing all that over again. Or door number three is doing valuable growth work that not just improved it in the moment, but that set us on a trajectory to have a really great relationship for decades to come. I don't know that my children would have been born if we hadn't spent the $85 a session. We probably went for 10 sessions. That's $850 at some point in the late 90s. And think about how much money we've all spent on. I have bought ski passes most years since then, way more than $800. And any one of those ski passes has had almost zero impact on my big picture life trajectory. Yeah, I had a nice winter, but in terms of what it really means, actually nothing. Oh my gosh. So anyway, the point being is that it is very easy for all of us to get ourselves twisted into pretzels about how much things cost. And we are substituting these dollar signs for the true value, which is what is the impact on my life trajectory. And if I get connected with the right person who can really help us at the right time, my life is going to be a lot different 10 years from now. 20 years from now. I think that most people don't think about this question in that way. So I wanted to give you that narrative. If you're how are we going to do this? It's going to be okay. And now it is also possible to waste time and money on couples counseling if you do it with the wrong person. As I mentioned in previous chapters of this, while Fixing your relationship is one of the best investments you'll ever make. I mean, your happiness, your emotional well-being, your financial future. I mean, lots of research supports that committed couples, married couples, their wealth over a lifetime is much higher than people who are single or, heaven forbid, go through a divorce. But if you connect with the wrong person, who is not a qualified marriage and family therapist, who does not utilize evidence-based practices, and who perhaps doesn't use powerful coaching psychology that really digs into how do we change this, you could wind up spending a lot of money and spinning your wheels in therapy that doesn't actually go anywhere. So it's very important that you choose wisely. If you are interested, because this is just such an obstacle for so many people, I did put together a big comprehensive article, again on my website. Come to growingself.com/rates-and-insurance. Kind of a mouthful, but rates and insurance. And that will break down how much different services cost, what it looks like to work with a most experienced marriage and family therapist who is a certified coach, who has a doctorate, who's been practicing for 25 years, versus, other options for sliding scale rates with earlier career clinicians, potentially. Like, we definitely have options for you. So this will educate you on how much does everything cost, but also just to begin thinking about the questions to ask. So in my experience, most reputable therapists will have documentation on their websites about how much things cost. If they don't, you could call and ask. But again, don't be making this decision on the dollar signs. Cost is not the number one priority. The value and the impact needs to be the number one priority. So I hope that helps you. And certainly if you would like to, get in touch with us at Growing Self, you can come to my website again, growingself.com, book a free consultation with any of the clinicians on my team to talk about what couples counseling would look like, how much it would cost for you with them specifically, different, potentially more affordable options we may have at my practice, and get you on a trajectory to move forward. So thank you for tuning in to this segment where we talked about how much marriage counseling costs. In the next segment, we're going to be talking about whether or not couples counseling is covered by insurance. So if you're hoping to offset some of those costs by utilizing health insurance, there are some really important things that you need to know, including pitfalls of using insurance for couples counseling versus sometimes when it might actually be a good idea. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. I gave you some free resources, but I have so many more on my website, growingself.com. Come to my blog and podcast page and tap into the Love collection. There's all kinds of relationship advice. Also, I host a weekly live stream every Thursday. Come to my website, drop me a question, Dear-Lisa, and be sure to connect with me on the socials, on YouTube, so you get notifications about when I'm going live so I can answer your questions. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.